Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus, expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are above replacement radio. And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Enjoying the last few weeks of high school sports season in Virginia. But yeah, no, we've had another solid week of baseball. Started watching some college baseball as well, because
we got some teams going to Omaha.
Is really heating up. In fact, I actually have Florida State and Oregon State recorded right now, and I will probably watch that as I go to bed. But I'll tell you.
Shout out to Ava Arquette. Shout out to, not pitching today, but shout out to Jamie Arnold.
Yeah, who I found out is like a top prospect and
yes.
probably be drafted.
Oh yeah,
10.
He's been that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool to get to that. But I'll tell you who unfortunately is not doing too well right now, and that is Corbin Burnes, who was recently announced he must get Tommy John surgery. A big blow to obviously him, but also the Arizona Diamondbacks, who recently signed him to a 6-year, $210 million deal. What did you think about just this general news?
This is probably one of the worst things that could have happened to the Diamondbacks. You know, you signed Corbin Burnes, and sure, there was signs of like performance decline, but at the very least, 167 innings in his Cy Young season in 2021, 202 innings the next year, 193 and 2/3 innings the year after that, 194 and a third the year after that. This has been a guy that doesn't miss starts. He makes all of his starts. He's made 32 each of the last 3 seasons heading into this one. And it was pretty immediate, right? Like he left and essentially said, "My elbow's done." That was like the vote. And from that point forward, it pretty clearly looked bad. But yeah, it is a shame, because this is like, unless he's getting the internal brace surgery, which I don't think he is, this is like the worst time of the year to be getting Tommy John surgery, because now he's probably out for 2026 as well.
Yeah, 100%. That it is a brutal timeline. Like probably the best time is probably around October. That's sometimes when it's like almost a relief for a team, where it's like, good thing this popped up now and not in the middle of the year or in like April, because now it seems like not only the rest of this year is tanked, but pretty much all of next year is tanked, because it is as we know, a long process to happen. And yeah, as you mentioned, the track record of workload over the last, especially 3 years, having at least 190 innings each of the last 3 years, I think that's part of what bumped up his value this offseason. He was given $35 million a year. He was given $8 million more a year than Max Fried, and I think their rate statistics and under the surface statistics were fairly comparable heading into this offseason. But Burnes had that extra workload, and I think that's part of what bumped up his value a little bit. So that's part of the not flaw, but like sometimes the issue that can kind of come up when you sign a guy for his workload. That's what happened with the Red Sox with Lucas Giolito. They signed him to eat up some innings, and then all of a sudden he needed Tommy John surgery coming out of spring training. So it's a big blow. It's a big blow no matter what, when you have a number 1 or number 2 guy have to get Tommy John surgery, but even a bigger blow when you sign that guy, particularly because he gets a lot of innings.
This is just a generally tough blow for the Diamondbacks as a whole in general. Since the start of May, their pitching staff, as it stands, the rotation and the bullpen ranks second lowest in front of only the Athletics in terms of pitching FWAR. They have a 5.22 ERA, which is third lowest in the league. The rotation has been especially a problem, which is not obviously where you at least have Corbin Burnes as a strength, but that's not there anymore.
Yeah, right, 100%. Yeah, it's tough, and yeah, he had gone 6 innings in 7 of his 11 starts, and all those starts, by the way, were also quality starts. Th 3 earned runs or
Mhm.
less allowed, and obviously, there's a lot more to look at beyond how many innings you throw, how many earned runs you allow. But he was just a guy that the Diamondbacks really could rely on every fifth day to, not tax the bullpen and, probably usually keep them in the game. As he had, a two, an ERA in the twos, a FIP in the mid threes. So yeah, it is very unfortunate, especially as you mentioned, when the Diamondbacks pitching situation has been pretty dire for the whole year.
Luckily, the rotation isn't like super decimated right now. If you look on Fangraphs, it's listed as Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Ryan Nelson, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Brandon Pfaadt, which on paper isn't the worst case scenario to be in. But I mean, they've gotten literally nothing out of Brandon Pfaadt. He has like he already have like 100 in his last like two starts or whatever it is. Zach Gallen has been incredibly disappointing this year and is unfortunately probably pitching his way out of a lot of money as we speak. Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt in his last two outings has pitched 3 innings and given up 13 earned runs. Like that,
Yeah, right.
that's what you're getting out of one of your starters right now. And you have to expect better than that going forward. But yeah, I mean there are a lot of guys in this rotation that are going to need to pick up the pace. Kelly's been pitching well as of late. Nelson's been fine. Erod's coming back from an injury, but is at least striking guys out. But Infod has been literally just a complete, dead weight in this rotation. So yeah, there's a lot that needs to be made up for with Corbin Burnes going on the shelf for the entirety of this year and probably next year as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess to maybe bounce off that earlier point is, optimistically from a Diamondbacks angle, I think you can expect at least one or two of those guys to really balance out and have a good stretch to balance out their bad stretch. It would be hard to expect Zach Gallen to finish the year with a ERA over 5. It would be hard to expect Eduardo Rodriguez to finish the year with a ERA over 6. So, you would expect some bounce back there. And the Diamondbacks have been able to tread water even with that pitching situation being so bad so far. So that is one angle of it. And I guess another angle about this is I think maybe GMs have been maybe more wary of how they approach the offseason, maybe knowing how um, pitching injuries happen. So maybe you do need to have like 6 or 7 starters on a roster. And I think that's pretty much what the Diamondbacks did.
Yeah, look at the Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. The Dodgers had a great example with that. And the Diamondbacks, let's also remember, had Jordan Montgomery as a projected starter in this rotation. So having 2 guys go down with Tommy John surgery and still be in a situation where you do kind of have 5, what you expect to be reliable starters in your rotation, that's a good spot. And I guess that's good on the GM/owner for making sure that was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean the Dodgers currently have 8 starting pitchers on the injured list, going as far back as last season with guys like Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone, River Ryan, who got Tommy John surgery, or things of the sort last year. Yeah, like that's yeah, you literally can never have enough. I also just like the Diamondbacks' track record of signing starting pitching as of late has been so brutal. Like Zach Greinke was maybe not worth the money that he got, but was still at least like pretty decent. But since then, it's like Madison Bumgarner, Erod, Jordan Montgomery, Corbin Burnes, like not a good track record.
Yeah, no, it's strange. Yeah, it hasn't been has not been great. Yeah, and yeah, Greinke compared to these recent signings, was a godsend relatively. Had a 131 ERA plus and 3.408 3.40 ERA and 3.58 FIP with Arizona in 714 and 2/3 innings. Yeah, none of the more recent Diamondback signings have been near that level, unfortunately.
Do you think this injury is the death blow for their season? They're 6 games out of a wild card spot. They have a 25% chance of making the playoffs, according to Fangraphs. They'll have to do so without their ace, and they obviously have 3 very competitive teams in their division ahead of them.
Yeah,
And
it's tough to say. I mean, this is, I mean, yeah, it sincerely is a major blow. But considering they have been able to tread water, um, while their pitching staff has put together an 85 ERA plus, which is a lot worse than I expected. And their offense hasn't really greatly overperformed, so I don't think they've been hitting to an unsustainable level. Um, I I don't think it's just the door. I think, but you know,
I think we're like 1 bad week away from calling it.
yeah, it doesn't take a genius to say it
They're
greatly
going
hurts their
on
chances.
they're going on the road this week to play Seattle and San Diego.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes for them for sure.
That's a
Um,
really tough
yeah,
week ahead. How many NL West opponents that are not the Rockies do they have coming up? Really none. They have the Giants at the end of the month at home.
mm,
But other than
yeah,
that, that's it. And then they have another series in San Diego before the All-Star break. Sorry, it's actually they're at home. They're not going on the road.
uh-huh.
The Mariners are coming in, the Padres are coming in, but still, I feel like 1 bad week could borderline sink this team.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, I think, the Diamondbacks are almost sort of performing to, or sort of auditioning for how the GM should treat the trade deadline at this point.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of teams are in that situation right now, but it's like, all right, figure it out in the next 2 months, or else we're gonna maybe ship off some guys. Um,
What are some buy pieces and sell pieces that we can maybe look for on this team?
well, Zach Gallen would be a
An
potential
easy
sell
sell
piece
piece, yeah.
because he has 1 year left of control here.
Probably Merrill Kelly as well.
Um, if,
He's also a free agent to be.
oh right, yeah, wow, yeah.
So
I
I mean
also
they
forget.
have a couple starting pitchers. They can honestly, like I would even just consider it like if you aren't 100% confident you can go on a good enough run to make the playoffs, I would just say you have 2 starting pitchers to sell off that could be pretty valuable. I know that Gallen's not pitching well this year. The namesake will do him something at the deadline because everyone overpays the deadline.
Right. Josh Naylor has one
It's
year
what
left
people do.
control. Eugenio Suarez is on the last year of his contract. There's a lot of attractive
Yeah, this
selling kind of looks attractive for this team right now,
yeah, selling but
unfortunately.
like major league ready pieces.
Right.
This is a good enough team to compete. There's a reason why we're not completely sold out on this team right now, and we're saying 1 bad week. I had him with the second best record in the National League going into this year. Like I still think there's even if you take Corbin Burnes out of this team, there's plenty of talent. They won 89 games last year without him. They went to the World Series the year before that. They've had some bullpen injuries throughout the year that are that caught up to them, but Justin Martinez is back now. Puck is still out for the time being. Like I mean, as kind of, this can go with any team at any given point, but they've definitely had it rough.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, things can change very quickly, and that we might be illustrating that with some of these teams we're talking about in the later in the episode here. Yeah, did we have anything more on the Corbin Burnes deal?
No, well, not the deal, but
The
no, I
deal
don't think so.
deal is, that's an
The
abstract term.
situation, yeah.
Situation. Yeah,
Hmm.
his injury.
It's brutal. It sucks. You never want to see. Obviously, any Tommy John sucks. There's nothing redeeming about it. But yeah, it
Yeah,
sucks when it's a guy that's been such a constant on the mound, not just like in presence, but in performance. And that's exactly what Corbin Burnes has been for the last 4 years.
yeah, it's yeah, It's pretty wild. I'm curious to see like maybe 10 years from now, it'll be interesting to look at, all the pitchers who pitched whatever, like 1,000+ innings in the 2020s or the late
Hmm.
2010s and see how many of them didn't get Tommy John surgery. I think the
Yeah,
number is going to be surprisingly low. It just seems like every significant pitcher in baseball at least gets it once in their career. It's pretty wild.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so um, Corbin Burnes, he's on the shelf, unfortunately, for a very long time. Um, but yeah, we will keep it low so that we can end off on a higher note. Um, the Seattle Mariners, who we had a segment on probably a month or so ago on how well they were doing. Well, they've definitely cooled off quite a bit, and have really muddled back near 500. They won today, so they're now 2 games above 500, but with a loss, they would have been, at 500, which would have been, pretty disappointing. They've lost 10 of their last 14 games. What have you been thinking about the Mariners and their direction right now?
yeah. I mean, it's kind of exactly what you'd think the Mariners are when they're struggling. If you go back to May 24th, their offense has been struggling quite a bit as it did for much of last year. You mentioned in 91 weighted runs created plus as a team. Going back to that date, Cal Raleigh is not the problem, but who is the problem are guys like Leody Taveras, guys like Jorge Polanco, Rowdy Tellez, Randy Arozarena. These are guys that have had at least 35 plate appearances in the span with a weighted runs created plus below 60. That's four regular guys in the lineup that are just not getting it done in any way, shape, or form. On top of that, they have some of the worst defense and base running numbers in this span. Their BSR is where is it? It's middle of the pack, but the defense also has been struggling. They rank 24th in defensive runs above average in this time. So on an offensive standpoint, they're not doing very well. But as you noted before the show, even the pitching has been problematic.
Yeah, the pitching you could argue their pitching kind of ranks worse than their offense at
Hmm.
during the stretch, or at least in their 13 games heading into today. I would imagine these numbers have improved because I think they only allowed 1 run today.
They
Um,
did
but in
two
the
runs, I think. I think it
two
was a
runs, yeah, it
three.
was
I
a
think it
three
was a 3-2 game.
3-2 ball game. But yeah, in the previous 13 games heading into Sunday, the Seattle Mariners had the fourth highest ERA and the second highest FIP. And also their bullpen ERA was 5.40, which was also the fourth highest in baseball. So it seemed like it stemmed largely from their bullpen, unfortunately. Also, just this team has faced some unfortunate injuries throughout the year, even excluding the stretch. George Kirby didn't make a start until about late May. Um, Logan Gilbert has been out for a good while now. Like those are your two best starting pitchers, and unfortunately, they haven't gotten the workload they expected. They initially expected out of them this year, so that's put them in an unfortunate situation. That's
Mhm.
why kind of the theme of this year for them, or when they were succeeding, it was because of their offense and not necessarily because of their pitching.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully they are going to get Gilbert back soon. He made his third rehab start yesterday, so he should be rejoining this rotation anytime soon. And then at that point, you have your regular five back in order. Wu, Miller, Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert. I don't know what they do with Emerson Hancock. He actually hasn't been. Uh, well, he actually hasn't been particularly good, but I mean, the walk rate is still down. There just hasn't been the development that they were hoping out of him this year.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Talking about kind of where their playoff chances and division chances have changed. I think these numbers exclude today, so they've probably, um, it hasn't taken as big of a blow as maybe these numbers suggest. But heading into Sunday, their playoff odds before the span were um, had gone from 81% to 55%, and their odds to win the division had gone from 63% to 31%. So their division odds have been cut off have been cut by more than half in just a 14 game stretch, unfortunately for them. And also, they haven't really lost to elite competition here. They lost a series to the Nationals and Angels during this stretch and also got swept by Baltimore at home. So it's not like they've really gone up against the heavyweights of the American League or even beyond that. It's just whoever they face, they've just not really performed well against, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is I don't know, it feels a little too reminiscent of last season where they, got out to a big lead and they were not at the same lead that they were at around this time last year, but they had a chance to run away with the division. They haven't done it. They have some decent competition coming up. Obviously, I mentioned they're facing the Diamondbacks, going to Arizona, and then they're home against Cleveland. They're home against Boston, and then they go to Wrigley. They go to Minnesota for four, and that takes you up to the end of June, which is, no, only one sub 500 team I think in that group. Actually, two of them, the Diamondbacks are sub 500, but yeah, definitely no lightweight opponents coming up at any point for this team. And I mean, the Orioles and Angels are probably the two worst teams they faced in the month of June, and they lost both of those series, which is not good.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like every angle I look at it, because I selected them to win the division this year, so I'm trying to look at them optimistically, but a lot of a lot of things don't point in the right direction for them, unfortunately, outside of getting some pitching pieces back, and having Kirby have a greater workload as he goes into time, goes throughout time, and Gilbert coming back. But even then, it's like, you know they're doing this while Cal Raleigh has like been the best player in baseball
Yeah.
over the last
Yeah. What happens when he's not doing that?
over the last 2 months. Like, what happens when he goes on a slump? This is not going to look very good because I can't, he has a 198 OPS plus right now. You know, Even as a big Cal Raleigh stan, I can't imagine that sustains itself. So what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to that lineup when he's uh when he's slumping? Because even in the stretch where the Mariners have had a 91 weighted runs created plus, his weighted runs created plus has been in like the mid 200s. It's been unbelievable. So
Mhm.
it really goes to show like how much the rest of the lineup has been slacking. So yeah, you really have to wonder what will happen when he doesn't play at an outrageous rate. Even if he's playing at a decent rate, like it's going to be a huge drop off from what he's doing right now.
I asked myself a very fearful question this week, and I don't know if it's worth asking, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Have we witnessed Julio's peak season offensively?
Peak season offensively. It's tough to say. I mean, that's a
It is
question.
he's 24. I don't think you can confidently give any answer, but I mean, his best offensive season was his rookie season in 2022. He's never come close to replicating it since, and this year he's kind of in line with what he did last year, which was seen as a down year. The defense has been excellent. The defense and the base running have been major upgrades this year. He'll certainly, if he continues on this pace, will finish with like a 4.5 to 5 win season. This is not a bad season by any means by Julio, but offensively, I still feel like we're just not getting the full picture.
Yeah, and it's kind of a silly trope for me to rely on, but it's like that's such an easier question to answer in like September because
Mm-hmm.
we've come to get used to
Second half
Julio
Julio.
how Julio Rodriguez operates, and I'm doing my best to quickly get up the numbers of where he was at through June 8th of last year and
Yeah, I
seeing
was gonna say this is
what
probably the
is
best we've seen through this point in the season in a while.
yeah, because like at this rate, this might actually end up being
Fair point.
um his best offensive season. But if he, reverts away from that, if he diverts away from that trend, and is just this for the rest of the year, then yeah, that's definitely a valid question to go at. And it's like you can't really bank on a guy just showing out for 3 months out of the year and only those 3 months. But
Hmm.
through June 8th of last year, he had a 97 weighted runs created plus. Um, and if we go to 2023, it was 108. We go to June 8th of 2022, it was okay, it was 123. So it
Hmm.
was a little bit better than what it is right now. Um, yeah, for a 24-year-old, I wouldn't say that, and maybe that's just me um trying to manifest that. I would hate to see him peak at his age 21 season.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean it I'm we're all waiting for the April breakout month from him, but it's just never happened, unfortunately.
His strikeout rate has gone down this year. It's down below 20%, 20%. It's been pretty consistently around the 25% mark every season of his career. So it is nice that he is making more contact, but at the expense, he is pulling the ball in the air less. He is hitting more ground balls. His ground ball rate is the highest it's ever been to this point, or really just in general. His line drive rate is below where it usually is. Like there are parts of his offensive profiles that I don't think we're seeing the best out of, even if it means he's making more contact.
Yeah, his barrel rate has also progressively gotten worse every year of his career.
Hmm.
Started at 13.1%, then went down to 11.9, then 10.2. Now it's at 8.1. It's right around league average, unfortunately. So that is something to take into consideration. And yeah, it does seem like his swing has drastically changed this year. He's sacrificed zero point 0.8 miles per hour of bat speed for zero point 0.3 inches less of swing length. The swing length is still zero point 0.3 inches above average, but it does show that he is trying to shorten up his swing, slow down his swing. Um, and I mean, I wouldn't say
The attack direction has also changed quite a bit too.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily hampering his abilities necessarily because his OPS plus is about the same as it was last year. Um, but it's definitely a lot worse than what it was in the first 2 years of his career.
Yeah, I mean it's foolish to say that, like, to declare that we've seen the peak of him. I'm not definitely saying that, but I think we're 3 years removed from his rookie of the year season where it felt like he was like top 10 player in the game worthy. And right, like that's how it felt at the time. Maybe I'm doing revisionist history. I mean, I think that's how I felt about it. I don't know if you remember anything differently at that time, but we
I mean,
just
yeah,
haven't seen it since.
yeah, for sure. I like we didn't do our top 50 players until 2024, but if it was um or or heading into 2023, but had we had those lists in 2023, I probably would have had him at least top 20. Um, I know like when we did our F4 league, I think I had him in the teens or something like that on the big board. And then in heading into 2024, where his offense was actually worse on a rate base, or his hitting was worse on a rate basis, I put him number 7 in baseball just because of that potential. So yeah, I mean, I think that's always kind of been there. And part of it is um, when you do so well so young, people think your ceiling seems so high. Whereas, now it's like, okay, how much better will he get? He's maybe 3 years away from like whenever your peak is supposed to be, not 6 years away. So that conversation gets a little less exciting as time goes on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. I mentioned the strikeout rate being down. The whiff rate and the chase rate have not budged, which does concern me a bit that maybe there's more strikeouts incoming.
Yeah, for sure. I think I do find like whiff rate and chase rate can be, or whiff rate and like called strike and whiff rate can be a good
Mhm.
indicator of what's to come because it is a per pitch basis as opposed to strikeout rate, which is a per plate appearance basis. So
Yep.
it's 4 times the sample size, roughly, if there's 4 pitches per plate appearance. That actually not to get too off topic, but I kind of noticed that with Paul Skeens last year, his whiff rate did not fully align with his strikeout rate, and his called strike and whiff rate was not fully aligned there, and his strikeout rate has gone down this year. He's still a Cy Young contender, but
Yeah.
his strikeout rate has gone
Well,
down.
Chris, have you seen he's 4-6? How can you say that?
That would be a real tough discussion in 1997.
Yeah.
But then the Saber patricians of the day would be like, well, no, you have to look at under the surface, his ERA is 205. It's actually one of the best in baseball. He's getting unlucky because his
His
team
team
isn't giving him
sucks.
run support.
Back then, people have been like, "Well, he's in the lineup. Why doesn't he do something about it if he's so good?"
That's true. Maybe things would be
Which he
different.
probably could have. He was a hitter at Air Force.
Yeah, no.
You've probably seen that video of him hitting a home run when he was at Air Force.
Maybe if the pitchers were allowed to hit, maybe he'd be 5-5 instead of
This is
4-6.
off topic, but I've been thinking about this lately. Like, anytime I see highlights from like pre 2020, there are so many things that just feel wrong now. Like I was rewatching highlights from a game that I like was reminiscing on in 18, and it was a game that went to extra innings, and it showed a guy coming to the plate in the bottom of the 10th inning with the bases empty. I was like, what? Where's the guy on second? This is not real baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like thinking about the like the lefty specialist, it's almost kind of
Yeah.
dead now.
Oh, it's super dead. Couldn't be more dead. It's more of a hitter thing now than a pitcher thing.
Yeah, and then
I feel
like
like.
to top that um with the 40-man roster, and like I mean, I can't imagine going back and watching a game in like September of 2018 when some guy from who spent all of his year in AAA but is good against lefties comes in for one batter
Mhm.
only, gets the out, and then comes out.
On the topic, like I mentioned, lefty specialist being like a more of a hitter thing. Like it goes not just for like journeyman, like like lefty specialist relievers were famously like guys that bounced around. It was never like an established tenured guy on a team. Like that is now for hitters applies to like everyday players. Isak Paredes, Chris, has 275 plate appearances this year. Do you want to guess how many of them have been against left-handed pitching?
um, like 70,
30.
30.
He has
So
30 plate appearances against lefties and 245 against righties. That's a guy that you'd expect to be in the lineup every day for a competitive team. And they
yeah,
just never play him against because that's normally it's a righty against a
right.
lefty, like it's reverse.
Yeah, that's strange. Yeah, that's about like 11% of plate appearances.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, that's wild. That's insane.
He does. I mean, he's not hitting well against lefties, but he's slugging. He's slashing 154, 267, 385, 680, 651. With, by the way, 3 strikeouts in 26 at bats. Like the strikeout rate is not even crazy. He has 2 home runs against lefties, uh, versus 12 against righties.
Yeah. No, yeah, that is weird. And that's again, that would be a concept that
That's
would
like
be
honestly the weirdest part. His strikeout, he has a 10% K rate against lefties. You would think he's striking out like 54% of the time, given how little they let him face lefties.
yeah,
Maybe the Astros just haven't faced a lot of lefties as a team.
yeah, I wonder what the ratio is on just general.
I'm gonna check Jose Altuve, see if
If we go to
he
team stats, okay.
Jose Altuve also has 30 plate appearances versus lefties.
That it might just be
Maybe the team just hasn't faced a single lefty this entire year. The Mariners don't really have too many lefties. They've
um
faced twice. Yeah, what percent of total pitches have come against left-handed pitching?
the Astros are last in the league in plate appearances against lefties.
All
They have
right. Well, okay, that
307
makes a little more sense
they
then.
have 317 plate appearances against lefties, and 2,368 overall. So if I do the math here on the calculator, 13% of their plate appearances have been against lefties.
Okay, so what that actually just lines up then. It's really just a whole team thing.
Yeah,
I was looking at the Paredes stats being like, how is it possible? No, they just don't face lefties. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
13.9% of total pitches they've seen have been against lefties. I wonder where that ranks, like among the lowest in like the pitch tracking era. That's got to be super low.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right, so I just had a theory of mine debunked in real time. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
It is
Daniel.
the lowest among any team since 2008. The 2025 Angels are second last at 15.4%. So the AL West just doesn't have lefties, I guess.
Yeah, Daniel
Framber,
Kern
which I mean,
destroys
one of them is
himself.
on the Astros. A bunch of them are on the Angels, right? They got Kikuchi, they got Tyler Anderson, Reed Detmers, who's coming out of the bullpen. The A's don't, yeah, I guess the A's don't
Right.
really have. They got Sean Newcomb like recently.
Yeah. Daniel
Jeffrey
destroy
Springs.
Daniel destroys himself with facts and logic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just watched an argument of mine falter in real time. But we learned something very valuable, and it's that the
Yeah.
Astros just do not face lefties.
Yeah, the league faces 26% lefties and the Astros face 13% lefties. So they've faced lefties at half the rate as
Yeah.
of the league. Pretty wild, pretty crazy.
That is interesting.
Very interesting. But yeah, so the Mariners are struggling is
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah,
point,
as we
the
were
whole point of
saying,
that. Um,
that was a very long tangent.
did we want to get into the Tampa Bay Rays?
Yeah, let's talk about can we get a hand clap? Is
A hand clap for the Rays?
Yeah, it's from that song that those guys made on YouTube before the 2008
Oh,
playoffs.
oh yeah, yeah. Tampa
Hey.
Bay. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful work over there. Um,
Shout out Jay Gomes, Eric Hinsky, Dan Johnson, Andy
I
Sonestein.
just like yeah, Eric Hinsky just being
Named
sung
after the
out
song.
is just great.
They went through the whole roster. Like they did not miss a single guy in that song.
Well,
What's the name of it?
um
Let me
I'm
go
sure
tell people to look up this song. Look up Above Replacement Radio, whatever episode we did the 2008 Rays 5 years ago.
I think it's somewhere in the 80s or seven, yeah, of this podcast. But I'm sure they're thrilled
Yeah,
because
it's Big B Gill and Bay Boy. It's Our Season on YouTube from August 24th, 2008.
there we go. Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure they're
check
thrilled
out that song.
because the Rays have won 14 of their last 18, including today. Um, their playoff odds have gone from 11% before the span to 48% in now after this span. And I don't even know if that includes today, so it might be even higher, it might be around like 50% right now.
Mhm.
What have you thought about the Rays surging in the American League playoff picture?
Yeah, so in this time, which on my end goes back to May 20th, the Rays are pretty much firing on all cylinders. They rank 11th in pitcher FWAR. They rank second in position player FWAR. I'll let you get to the position players because I actually do want to talk about the pitchers. I found a very interesting development with this team earlier this week that I've been monitoring pretty heavily. Today was a very good day for this narrative that I've come across. Before May 20th, Tampa Bay Rays pitchers at large threw fastballs, four seamers, cutters, and sinkers 54.2% of the time, which was just a little bit below league average, and less than more than half the teams were ahead of them in fastball rate. In this span, they have thrown 60.2% fastballs as a whole, which is the fourth highest in the majors. As a team, they have a 1.784 run value per 100 against all fastballs, which leads the majors. Their 201 opponents batting average against fastballs ranks second lowest, and their 321 slugging ranks fourth lowest. And that's before Drew Rasmussen came in today through 92% fastballs. The team as a whole threw about 87% fastballs, and they gave up 2 runs to the Marlins and no extra base hits. So that's probably going to go up today. Yeah, I've found that very interesting. It seems like it might be like a very conscious decision. 'Cause it's not like there's like one pitcher that's doing it or one new guy that came in that wasn't there before. At large, pretty much the whole staff is throwing a higher rate of fastballs now than they were before.
Yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, like if you were to see a change, you would have expected it to be at the beginning of the year. I don't know, like I don't think there were any pitching coaches fired or anything
No.
in this stretch, but maybe they just found something was working, or maybe just in that like ballpark or in that heat, it just works better to throw fastballs. It's, you
Whatever it
know,
may be. Yeah, it's very possible. Drew Rasmussen has gone from 87.3% fastball usage to 92.1%. He actually threw more than 92% today, amazingly enough. And it goes pretty much throughout the whole pitching staff. Taj Bradley's gone from 63.3% to 71.6%. That's another one. Ryan Pepio has gone from 48.9% to 55%. Like all of these guys are throwing, and that's just the rotation, like all the bullpen guys, same thing.
yeah, that is very interesting. And yeah, very good find. And that has, I think that maybe has correlated to, um, it, like I kind of see it in the numbers. Outside of their ERA FIP, um, they have the lowest walk rate in baseball in the span,
Mhm.
which, obviously fastballs, they move the least, so more likely to stay in the zone. Their walk rate has gone from 7.7% before the span to 5.5%. Um, they also have the third highest, or the third lowest xFIP, excuse me, as they have the um, third highest strikeout minus walk rate. So I think they're kind of valuing the strikeouts and walks. Their home run rate isn't great, which is
Well,
also,
you're throwing a lot of fastballs.
yeah,
That's just
no,
going to happen.
that's kind of what I'm pointing to is like, it is kind of correlated to what the results are. It's a high strikeout minus walk rate, but I think they're sacrificing, they're sacrificing that with allowing more home runs. So yeah, we'll kind of see if they stick with that long term. But
Yeah.
results wise, they have the second lowest ERA and the sixth lowest FIP in this
You
span.
make it
So
You do make
maybe
a
it's
good
working
point. I
out.
wonder if there's maybe some kind of mid-season adjustment that they made in accordance to the new environment, like playing outdoors at home instead of indoors. I'm sure it's probably very hot or has been very hot in those games. Normally those kinds of climates you don't see outdoor stadiums, right? Like all of the hottest climates in baseball, Arizona, Texas, Houston, Miami, and previously Tampa, like they're all indoor stadiums.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like that's the one kind of unique thing that sticks out to
Maybe
me.
the maybe from the minor league aspect of the ballpark. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
I wonder, because yeah, I wonder what that might have an effect on when pitches are breaking. Like
mhm.
if yeah, if a curveball is like breaking later, maybe it's just not as good to throw it then. But yeah, that's all. It's all speculation. I have no idea
No,
if
I
that's.
am very curious to know what's causing that because, like I said, this seems like it was a conscious decision because it's not. It's a team wide thing where everyone's doing it. Basically, Shane Baz is like the one guy. He went from uh what was it 47.1% fastball usage before the span to exactly 47.0% in the span. Like he's basically just hasn't moved. Everyone else has gone up.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, like you do kind of, that's one thing where you just wonder like what's going on behind the scenes. What's why are they doing this? Is this even if whether it's for a good or a bad reason, I'd like to know. Um
Let me check. You can keep going. I want to see if these changes occur both at home and on the road
um yeah, for
to
sure.
test that out.
It would, yeah, it would be hard for me to think that they would change it home or on the road, but if that's the case, then I think we may have just cracked a code. Um, but
Yeah.
while you look for that, I'll talk about some of their hitters because along with their pitching, their hitting has been amazing as well. In their previous 17 games heading into today, the Rays led all of baseball in OPS, home runs, and stolen bases. So, you know, hitting for power and stealing bases, they've been the best at. And it's notably been coming, excuse me,
from Chandler Simpson in
yeah,
terms of the
the
base
stolen
stealing.
bases have come from Chandler Simpson, but just the general hitting contributions uh, have largely come from Junior Caminero, who, he's not rookie eligible, but kind of having his first full season this year. Uh, he's hitting 333 with an 1183 OPS, at least heading into today. Slugging 810 in the previous 17 games heading into today. And only a 13% strikeout rate, which also should be noted as well. Christopher Morel, only 24 plate appearances, but an 1102 OPS. Brandon Lau has been kind of the other key piece in that lineup. He's really gotten hot. He's slugging 710 in the span with a 1073 OPS. He's been pretty great. And Jonathan Aranda has just kind of continued doing what he had been doing previous to the span. He has a 921 OPS. I guess it's been less from power and more from contact because he is hitting 353 with a 450 with a 450 on base percentage to get to that. So yeah, the hitting has been just about as, if not more impressive than the pitching, which is something to say because the pitching has been extremely impressive. But yeah, did you have any numbers on that?
Yeah, you actually might be onto something. At home, the Rays have gone from throwing 55% fastballs before the span to 62% in the span. And on the road, they've only played 3 games on the road in the span, so it's probably not a big enough sample to draw any actual conclusions, but I will be watching for this when they play at Fenway and Citi Field next week. On the road, they've gone from 52% fastballs to 50% fastballs. It's actually gone down on the road and way up at home. So maybe you are onto something with that. But again, it's only been 3 games on the road. They might have had, I don't know who pitched those 3 games in Houston off the top of my head.
Uh,
So
Boz threw one of them.
okay, and he hasn't moved that much. Did Pepio throw one of them?
Let me
Because
go.
he's also has one of the lower rates of fastballs
I just went
compared to like
to
If Rasmussen pitched, then it's notable.
I just went to Boz's game logs.
Okay.
Let's see what the who the starting pitcher was in that second game. Pepio pitched, and then on May
Bradley.
31st, Zach Littell.
Okay, yeah. So like the lowest fastball guys in the rotation.
Yeah,
All right,
interesting.
so I will be watching, like I will be monitoring this quite heavily at Fenway this week.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it is a very interesting development. For sure. But yeah, the Rays just in general, I think they kind of went from middling, not looking too competitive, maybe looking like more of the same as last year, to looking like how a lot of people kind of expected them to, like kind of bouncing back, getting into that playoff picture, um, and just being kind of a real nuisance to all the teams they face. What have you
Mhm.
been thinking about just kind of how they play out in the playoff picture right now?
I feel like we need to see what this team looks like with Shane McClanahan in the rotation before we can make a full evaluation. He threw a short bullpen session on Tuesday of last week, and had a full bullpen schedule on Friday of this past week. So I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but it does seem as though he's making some strides. Um, Junior Camanero's breakout's been the biggest thing, I think. I mean, he homered in like 4 straight games, I think it was at one point. He's been, evidently the best hitter in this lineup and kind of exactly what you were dreaming to see out of him with, the 80 grade power in that bat. So that's been, I think, kind of the highlight of this, good stretch for the Rays is seeing Junior Caminero at least tease that kind of breakout that we've been really hoping for from him.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things I sort of put against the Rays heading into this year was they were not, you know, in trading Paredes last year, they were sacrificing some of that production at third base that they had with him when he was on the team. But Junior Caminero looks like he's kind of fully supplementing that if he can do this. I mean, he has a 128 OPS plus as of or at least heading into Sunday. And that's kind of what Paredes's level was at when he was with the Rays. So yeah, yeah, pretty good sign over there. So
Yeah, just going back on Common Arrow, dating back to May 23rd, he is hitting 356 with a 1261 OPS. And that does include today, but 7 home runs in his last 15 games, 9 doubles as well.
yeah, he's been a very big factor. And yeah, it's been cool to see Brandon Lau. If he's been performing this hot, he must have been pretty below league average before this. So he's bumped his OPS plus up to 112, which is not far from what we probably would have expected heading into the year. So yeah, seeing him return to being a significant part of that lineup is a very good sign for them. Um, Anything more before we move on to our last team?
Now let's talk about the team up north.
Yeah, the the Canadian team, the Toronto Blue Jays. They did lose today, but even with that, they have won 9 of their last 11, and have improved their playoff odds from 26% before that span to now 53%, maybe a little bit below that now because they did lose today. So hypothetically, maybe that's 51, 50%. But nonetheless, they've greatly improved their playoff odds. And also, it's not necessarily been against the sorest of competition. They did sweep the Athletics, but they have also won series against the Phillies and the Twins, who are definitely playoff contenders. The Phillies, especially. What have you been thinking about how Toronto's been playing as of late?
So I'm actually going to do something a little unconventional for these segments. I'm actually going to start this out by talking about an individual instead of a unit within the team that's been excelling. I want to talk about Addison Barger because I think the storyline for me with this Blue Jays surge over the last couple of weeks has been the Addison Barger breakout since May 20th, not including today. He's slashing 313, 371, 625 for a 175 weighted runs created plus. He has the highest FWAR of any position player on this team. And there are some very dramatic changes that he's made between this year and last that have paid dividends so far this year. First of all, he's completely changed up his stance entirely. His stance angle went from 15% open last year to 50% open this year, 1-5 to 5-0. So he's opened up his stance quite a bit. The distance between his feet has shrunk. He's standing a lot closer, within his own body, I guess, if that makes sense. The bat speed has gone up. He's made a lot of internal changes that, like I said before, very controllable. As a result, you have a 15% barrel rate. You have a exit velocity that's around the hard hit marker. It's at 94.2 miles per hour. He's hit a ball at as high as 116.5 miles an hour. He's hitting the ball in the air a decent amount, a 28% line drive rate, a very low ground ball rate. He's pulling the ball. Like, this has been pretty much the perfect breakout.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's not necessarily a guy who is kind of on everyone's radar. He
No.
was not a top 100 prospect in baseball or anything, but looks like looks like a possible rookie of the year contender, depending on, if Jacob Wilson slows down.
Yeah, if Jacob Wilson ever wants to slow down.
Yeah. But could be looks like a potential finalist at least. So yeah, that's been a big factor for them. I'm sure at they've been missing some third base production since the departure of Matt Chapman. But yeah, and
Sorry,
talking
I
about
forgot they
the
had Matt
unit.
Chapman. It's a great point.
Yeah, right.
Feels like it's such a different time at this point.
Yeah, it's strange for sure. But in their previous 10 games heading into Sunday, the Blue Jays as a whole had the highest average on-base percentage and slugging percentage in baseball, and they had the highest OPS by 71 points and the highest average by 27 points. What's very notable with them is they are a very contact driven team. If we were maybe not
13.7% strikeout rate in this span.
I 12.7% in if you just dilute it to a 10 game span.
Ah,
And that is the lowest over that is the lowest by over 4 percentage points in the span. And yeah, if we were not above replacement radio, if we were maybe another baseball podcast, we'd be like, hey, look what happens when you make contact. I mean, it's just it's absolutely crazy. I mean, obviously more contact is better, but it's a layered conversation. Sometimes you sacrifice contact for power and blah 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 blah. Maybe not a conversation we can get to today, but it is notable and it's a very key factor to that teams how much they make contact. And it's definitely part of the driver of their success and why they have and why they're hitting 302 in a 10 game span.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they've been fun to watch. Especially because like I had them in last this year. They've definitely defied my expectations. Like this is we talked a lot about, or the national media talked a lot about how this was such a make or break year for this team. Obviously, before going into spring training, it was the Vlad Jr. walk year, and then they extended him, which was pretty awesome. Bo Bichette is who's had a lot to prove this year, has been doing very well as of late. The Blue Jays as a team, they lead the league in exit velocity since May 20th. So how about that?
Yeah, like having a having a 13.7% strikeout rate and the highest average exit velocity. That's what makes you have the highest OPS in baseball by a long stretch. And yeah, another thing I'll add is every qualified hitter they had in the 10 previous games heading into today had a 140 weighted runs created plus or higher. All of them, all six of them had a 140 weighted runs created plus or higher, with Addison Barger, as you note, leading the charge. I think he had a 1261 OPS in that 10 game span. Pretty unbelievable. So yeah, it hasn't. So yeah, he's been part of the charge, but there's been a lot of Blue Jays hitters who have just been hammering the baseball lately. So pretty wild. And this is a team also who we kind of wondered about their offensive identity because it seemed like they were turning into a more defensive minded team, and not necessarily worrying about power like the days of the mid 2010s Blue Jays were far behind us. And we kind of noted that in the acquisition of Andres Jimenez. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
they've been really hitting the ball well lately. Not that it's going to continue this way, but it is something to I guess be optimistic about if you're a Toronto fan.
It is crazy because if you look at all their offseason acquisitions, like none of them have contributed really anything to the team. Like Andres Jimenez has been, I guess, kind of what you'd think he would be. Uh, Although the offense has been even worse, the defense has been fine, but not even really to the degree that it was in Cleveland. Like he's been somewhat underwhelming. Jeff Hoffman has been legendarily unlucky, but I mean, he's giving up a lot of home runs. He has an ERA above 5.5. But hey, the xFIP's been really good. Max Scherzer's been hurt. Anthony Santander struggled before going on the IL. Like they've whiffed on pretty much every offseason acquisition so far, and yet all the internal guys are stepping up. Ernie Clement has been doing very well in the span. And we mentioned Barger, Bichette, I mentioned earlier. Chris Bassett's had one of his best seasons in a while. Kevin Gausman's even like kind of picking up uh, some ground from last year when he struggled. Like it's been a very different season for a lot of guys that have been, having sort of resurgences, if you will.
The complete career turnaround of George Springer is
Yeah, George Springer's
unbelievable.
another one. I don't even know how I didn't mention him. Alejandro Kirk has been hitting well. Uh, he's a 111 weighted runs created plus while also playing Alejandro Kirk defense behind the plate.
I know George Springer has only played 60 games this year, but he is the highest weighted runs created plus he's had in a season in his Blue Jays career. He's been there for 5 years now.
Yeah,
So like he's performing the best he has in a Blue Jays uniform, and he's also his WOBA is 36 points less than his expected WOBA. So he's not BABIPing his way through it. I'm sure he's maybe not pulling some fly balls, but like he's hammering the baseball like he was back in like 2021, 2019. It's pretty insane. Uh,
Alejandro Kirk is like on pace for his highest F4 season, even higher than 2022 when he had 4.3.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, George Springer has a 19.9% barrel rate this year, 91.4 mile per hour average
That's
exit
pretty
velocity.
good.
This season might if he if he keeps going like this in any sort of positive way, This season might get studied.
Comeback player of the year.
It
I don't
like
know who the other like contenders would be. I don't follow that award too closely, to be honest.
yeah, there's always some like
Shohei Ohtani on the
like Spencer
mound
Strider
both
hasn't really made
years.
his case great right now.
No, Sandy
He
Alcantara is definitely not in contention.
yeah, because
Not that they would win the AL award to begin with.
yeah.
Although I know someone who definitely thought that.
True. Yeah, no, he's a candidate. I feel like every year there's
Pete
you know,
Alonso for National League.
yeah, I feel like every year there's a couple Tommy John surgery guys who were aces that could always like contend for that spot. But
Yeah.
I mean George Springer, yeah, I mean he
That
has
is probably the
one
correct answer right now.
yeah, like I guess his defense is definitely holding his war back, but like he could still get like a three
Whatever.
win season.
Whatever.
Um but yeah, no, I mean just unbelievable in every way. This year from him.
Rafael Devers coming back from those first 5 games.
That is a yeah, I think I, you make a very valid point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to who else had a comically slow start. I don't even know. Um, if Roki Sasaki
Yeah.
does anything
You
good,
know what's really scary?
yeah.
Um, if he doesn't pitch again, he's at exactly 196 splitters thrown this year.
Um, what's the
One of my bold predictions was that he would have the lowest spin rate splitter, minimum 200 splitters thrown in a season.
oh my God.
If he doesn't pitch again this season, I get that. I am locked out of it because he didn't meet the qualifier.
That would be tragic.
Yeah, for
Hope that
short. But he's playing catch at Dodger Stadium, so fingers
that's
crossed.
good.
You gets
That's good.
at least 4 more splitter. He could throw one more inning. He could even face one more batter.
Truly. Yeah.
It'd be good. I don't think he'd throw 4 splitters in one at bat. It'd have to be like a very long at bat, a lot of foul balls.
True. Very true. Very drawn out. But yeah, it's cool to see what the Blue Jays are doing, and it's not yeah, they're not even doing it behind the dominance of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and
No.
that's always like he can always have a insanely hot streak, and it almost looks like he's kind of due for one. As just the process numbers seem to be still good. I haven't gone to his baseball savant page, but I noticed his strikeout rate and walk rate look pretty good. What's Guerrero? Yeah, no, Guerrero's getting very, at least on the expected number front, very unlucky. So, wait till he breaks out. This could get even crazier. But yeah, anything more on the Blue Jays?
No, I think that's kind of it. Yeah, they're mashing. They're doing that. I don't know, like the good Blue Jays teams that are hitting really well are always like insanely cool.
Yeah, it's just like it's hard to imagine like what that 2015, 2016 run would have looked like if they just won on their pitching and like if they
Yeah.
were like
No,
the
dude, like that's not how it is. Like in 93, they won on their offense and they were awesome because of their offense. Like that's what this team is. They're just when they're at their best, they are one of the best offensive teams in the league, and that's what we're seeing here.
like I need 7-5 ball games like
Yeah,
the Blue Jay. I need that horn going off as much as possible.
yeah, exactly.
I don't need the 2011 Phillies to go out there. I don't need a bunch of aces.
Even in this span, they rank 17th in starting pitch or in all pitcher F4, although they do rank 8th in ERA.
Yeah,
they have a 257 BABIP against. Just
yeah,
fourth lowest.
their hitting is what's responsible for this run.
Yes.
At least on the or at least on and under the surface. But yeah, did we want to get into players to highlight?
Let's talk about some players to highlight, Chris.
All right. Well, we will start with the lows, so we end with the highs. With our Sunday, June 8th, 2025 edition of Slightly Alarming Statistics. He's been barreling up the ball way less.
He's not missing bats, he's not getting the ball on the ground, and people are hitting it in the air more.
It's been so bad. He is getting a
slightly alarming.
So for my slightly alarming, this one maybe isn't super qualifying. You and I definitely have not been believers in this guy for the last few years, but I think the national media, the ESPNs and the MLB networks of the world definitely think a lot more of this guy than we do. And he's been struggling as of late. I'm talking about JT Realmuto from the Philadelphia Phillies. I think we both ranked him outside our top 10 catchers this year, but I'm sure ESPN had him ranked like number 34 best player in the league or something. But since May 16th, he is slashing 169, 217, 246 for a 464 OPS, a 28 weighted runs created plus, and a minus 0.4 FWAR. So he's been one of the worst hitters in the league. Among the 183 qualifiers, he ranks 7th lowest in batting average, 6th lowest in OBP, tied for the 11th lowest in slugging, 10th lowest in OPS, tied for the 9th lowest in weighted runs created plus, and tied for the 7th lowest in FWAR. There's just been a lot of changes going on within his game, nothing too internal, but just not getting the same kinds of results. His ground ball rate has gone from 41.1% before the span to 53.1% in the span. That's a 12% increase. And pretty much all of that is taking from line drives. His line drive rate has gone from 27.4% to 16.3%. So he is taking line drives and instead hitting ground balls. And that's never recipes for success, especially if you're a catcher. Although, to be fair, if you are a catcher, Realmuto is probably like the best person to be doing this because he does like lead all catchers in sprint speed, or at least has for the last few years. But another big problem is that the pull rate is going down, as you'd expect. He's been a little late getting to the ball. His average attack angle, which, as we've covered a few episodes ago, is the angle at which the bat is traveling at the 40 milliseconds before contact. Essentially, it's a timing thing, right? When you think about a baseball swing, it goes down and then it goes back up. And it's not going back up as much when he hits the ball. Has gone from 14 degrees to 11 degrees. His attack direction, which is kind of the direction the bat is facing when it makes contact with the ball, has gone from 0 degrees to 5 degrees to the opposite field. So all this is to say he's late to the ball, and he's getting the results that would prove that. His pull rate has gone from 46.3% to 32.7%. His pulled air rate has gone from 18.9% to 6.1%. It's gone down by 3 times, which is not very good. The average exit velocity on fly balls that he has hit over this span have gone from 92.2 to just 88.9 miles per hour. So he's hitting the ball a lot less hard. He's hitting the ball in the air the same, but he's obviously converting a lot of line drives into ground balls. He's not pulling the ball, and for that reason, JT Realmuto is getting a slightly alarming.
JT Realmuto.
Slightly alarming.
MLB Network ranked him the 5th best catcher in baseball.
That sounds about right.
And number 80 on their top 100 players list. Although I will say with the MLB Network top 100, I think was ranked on a different in a different way than the positional list, because Bobby Witt Jr. was number 3 on their list
Right.
for players, but number 4 for shortstops, which
yeah, they do that sometimes. I don't get what that's supposed to mean.
Yeah,
I remember
strange.
are we talking MLB Network?
Yeah.
In 2000, I think it was 14 into 15. They put Andrew McCutchen as the top center fielder over Mike Trout, but they put Mike Trout as the best player in baseball.
Yeah, it's weird.
I didn't get that one.
Now, Mike Trout is better at playing, but Andrew McCutchen is better at center fielding. So,
which I don't even know if that was true at the time.
Yeah, no, he's not really known for his defense necessarily.
I mean, this was 2014 into 15, but that's like Mike Trout just won MVP for the first time and is also going into like age 24,
and arguably should have won 3 MVPs in a row.
100%. Yeah.
In hindsight,
yeah.
Using our modern
Mike Trout like single-handedly forced baseball fans into like the age of the award voting that we see now, because like now it has like people complain about it becoming the WAR award, but it's like they're just correcting from past mistakes. Like Mike Trout should have won like 6 MVPs by now. Barry Bonds should have won like 14 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a legit case for Barry Bonds winning like 11 MVPs.
Yeah, well, I mean, he lost to Terry Pendleton in 1991. Like that's crazy. We'll forever never understand that one.
Yeah, he actually had one of my favorite things is I think he had more WAR. I don't know if it was on both websites, but he had more WAR than both McGuire and Sosa in '98.
I would 100% believe that.
It's hilarious. And I think the year Bonds went 40-40, he like finished outside the top 10. I think there was voter fatigue from
What year was that? 40-40
'96, I
was.
think.
I'm looking at it right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would have been, yeah. That was the year he put together a 1076 OPS, a 188 weighted runs created plus. He finished fifth.
Oh, fifth.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking at it right now as
But
you can see on my right.
I remember when we did the history series, like he definitely earned the award.
Yeah,
And
Willie
didn't
Mays
win.
should have won more than two.
Yeah, it was unfortunate.
They had to give it to Maury Wills that one year.
Yeah, right. No,
Brutal.
you know, Ted Williams had a few he was robbed from. There's a whole history of it. Go check out the baseball history series on our YouTube channel. It's a playlist.
Mhm.
But my slightly alarming, someone who was part of my top three overreactions of the opening weekend of baseball, and I was very optimistic about him and what his season would look like. But unfortunately, has not looked the best over the last almost month. In his last 22 games, including today, Fernando Tatis Jr. is hitting 159 with a 490 OPS. Out of 179 qualifiers in this span, heading into Sunday, his average was ninth lowest, on base percentage was 10th lowest, and OPS was 12th lowest. And out of 135 hitters to see 300 plus pitches in this span heading into Sunday, Fernando Tatis Jr.'s expected batting average was ninth lowest and expected WOBA was fifth lowest. Part of this has to do with him striking out a little bit more, including today. His strikeout rate has gone from 17% before the span to 23% in the span. And like Real Muto, he's having trouble hitting line drives. Heading into Sunday, his line drive rate had gone from 22% before the span to 13% in the span. Out of 162 hitters to hit 50 plus batted balls in the span heading into Sunday, Tatis's
You
line
got it.
drive rate was second lowest. So yeah, second lowest line drive rate out of 162. That's gonna really mess with your numbers. And his sweet spot rate has gone from 28% to 19% in the span. And out of 162 hitters, Fernando Tatis Jr. has the lowest or had the lowest sweet spot rate of any hitter with 50 plus batted balls heading into Sunday. The lowest sweet spot rate. Part of that also has to do with his pop-up rate having gone from 3% to 8%. And then outside of that, his barrel rate has also gone from 15% to 9%. And then along with hitting less barrels, he is hitting them at less ideal places. He has gone from pulling 37% of his barrels to pulling 17% of his barrels. And that has made him go from slugging 2389 on barrels to 1333 on them. So Fernando Tatis Jr. not making the best contact, and when he's making good contact, he's not necessarily making the most out of that good contact, not putting the ball in the right area of the ballpark. So that has resulted in him having a 490 OPS in a 22 game span. Fernando Tatis Jr.
Slightly alarming.
All
We
right.
kind of talked about it last year. A lot of what held him back last year was hitting too many fly balls to the opposite field. And yeah, I mean, it seems like he's kind of falling back into that spell at this time.
Yeah, each of the last 2 years heading into this year, he's had, much higher expected numbers than actual numbers. But it hasn't been really a BABIP issue. It's not like he's hitting, line drives right at people a bunch of times. That's happening kind of at normal rates. It's just that, his best contact is usually to dead center field, unfortunately. And expected metrics don't take that into account. Doesn't take into account what part of the ballpark you hit it to. So he's hitting he hits the ball hard, gets barrels, but unfortunately, if you hit a 390-foot fly ball, it's a lot better to do it down the left field side than to dead center field. So that's where Tatis has kind of wavered in his offense. But yeah, now we will go from the lows to the highs, where we will talk about players and subjects that have been outperforming expectations with our Sunday, June 8th, 2025 edition of How About That?
He's striking out less, walking more, and he's also making better contact.
Turning into a strikeout machine just out of nowhere.
He's been excellent all around this year.
And he is getting a...
How about that?
Yeah, so this is not the first time that this guy is being highlighted on How About That throughout the history of Above Replacement Radio, but it is the first time that he's being highlighted by one of us. I'm talking about Kris Bubic from the Kansas City Royals, formerly How About That from Foolish Bailey back in 2023. So different span, but he's earned it. Throughout the season, he has a 1.43 ERA and a 2.43 FIP. Among the 78 qualified starting pitchers, he ranks first in ERA, fourth in FIP, tied for third in FWAR at 2.4. Like every season throughout his four-seam fastball as his primary pitch, and it's done very well for him so far this year. Its 31.3% whiff rate ranks fifth among the 114 pitchers with at least 254 seamers thrown, and its 28-degree launch angle against ranks sixth among the 93 pitchers with at least 50 batted balls against a four-seamer. So he's getting a lot of very high contact, like too high for it to be a home run, and he's getting a lot of whiffs. And obviously, as someone that plays in Kansas City, that's definitely a recipe for success, as a lot of fly balls don't leave the ballpark as often as it does in other ballparks. His best secondary pitch, in my opinion, this year has been his changeup, which is his third most used pitch, which opponents are hitting 100 against, slugging 100 against. It has a 38.5% whiff rate and a -8-degree average launch angle. So he's getting a lot of whiffs, a lot of ground balls, and not a lot of very good results. The 2.8 run value per 100 against his changeup ranks 10th highest among the 107 pitchers with at least 100 changeups thrown. Now, the reason I think for these great results on the changeup is a change in shape over the last couple of years. The average drop on Bubic's changeup has gone from 33.1 inches in 2024 to 37.4 inches in 2025. He's added over 4 inches of it, which makes a big difference. In 2024, 15.6% of changeups thrown by Bubic had registered at least 35 inches of drop. And this year, that number is up to 88.2%, the 12th highest rate among the aforementioned list of 100 pitchers with at least 100 changeups thrown. Only 17.1% of fly balls allowed by Bubic have been barreled. 17.1% have also been pulled, but only 2.4% of fly have been pulled and barreled, which is the best way to hit a home run. And that's the 11th lowest rate among the 189 pitchers with at least 25 fly balls allowed. And it's not just been a home thing, right? Obviously pitchers have an easier time succeeding in Kansas City. He is a sub 1.5 ERA, both at home and on the road. So he's been doing very well wherever he's pitching for the second time in ARR history, but the first time in 2025 and the first time by either of us. Kris Bubic is getting a How About That?
Yes, Kris Bubic. Excuse me. Kris Bubic.
How about that?
So, yeah, he gets...
What's so exciting? Tom Hamilton's going to go into the Hall of Fame this year.
That is very exciting. Very, very well deserved. I mean, it was great to see kind of the national spotlight get set on him with the Jose Ramirez fight. I mean,
yes. Oh, 1,000,000%.
That was kind of his shining moment, which I love.
Yeah.
But it's like,
I definitely want to do a full segment on him when he goes into the Hall of Fame, because I actually do have, I'm not a fan of the team that he commentates. I don't have anything against them, but it's just, they've never been my team. But Tom Hamilton's always been my guy, and I'm extremely, extremely happy for him.
Yeah, I think I remember back in our probably one of the first classes we had together. It was freshman year of college, introduction to communications or something like that. And Laura Dabowski asked, who our favorite like commentators were, and I think you mentioned Tom Hamilton. So
Did I actually? I don't remember that, but I believe it.
I think so.
That
And
sounds right.
unfortunately, I think Laura Dabowski is very much more more fan of the casual tone, so I don't think she was that
Yes.
into um Tom Hamilton. I suggested the great John Miller, who is like,
Also a
you
good one.
if you have a if you have an MLB, if you have access to the like replays of the audio of like Giants home games, that's a great way to fall asleep. Like falling asleep.
100%.
It's
Yeah, no,
like,
that is a phenomenal one.
yeah,
Uh, like
John
I
Miller is like
the
butter melting on toast.
the like the sound bite we have for how about that? Like I straight up remember that call. Like I pulled it up. I was like, if you look up this home run, it was the home run. It was 2016. Jose Ramirez hits a home run against the Blue Jays to tie the game in the ninth. It's the game where Tyler Naquin hit that walk-off inside the park home run. But that was the
Mm,
one that tied it up, that set up that walk-off. And I remember
yeah.
him saying, how about that, in that Tom Hamilton tone. And it's not like it is a catchphrase of his. Like he says it often, but that was like the one that I remembered. And that's the soundbite that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. He's yeah, you remember that voice, you remember that enthusiasm behind the
Mm-hmm.
mic that he has. Um, but yeah, so how about that? For the second week in a row, we are overlapping on a
Oh,
left-handed
wow.
pitcher. But luckily I kind of looked at mostly a different set of stats, and I think
Good.
kind of
Good.
we do tend to look at pitchers differently. I kind of still focus a lot
First,
on,
Chris Bubich has got to be the first guy to be highlighted by three different people. And how about that?
yep, that is true.
I don't
Um,
know who else has been highlighted as a how about that by other people.
yeah, I don't,
Ryan Noda.
right.
I think
Yeah,
Michael Conforto.
I think he was the only like Frozo only guy in the Frozone maybe. Where you
Yeah,
get
maybe. Yeah. Which we
slightly
also highlighted him
alarming.
as a slightly alarming this year too.
It's rough. Um, but yeah, Chris Bubich, as you mentioned, in 12 starts has a 1.43 ERA. I think Fangraphs had it as a 2.44 FIP. Maybe they round up or something. He also has a 2.81 expected ERA in 75 and a third innings pitched. Um, you mentioned, lowest ERA, fourth lowest FIP, also seventh lowest expected ERA out of 78 qualifiers heading into Sunday. And he's allowed 0.4 home runs per nine, which is the lowest rate out of 78 qualifiers. Much of that has to do with him having only a 22% fly ball rate, and allowing 17% of those fly balls to be pulled. Out of 113 pitchers to allow 150 plus batted balls this year heading into Sunday, Bubich has the 16th lowest fly ball rate against him. And out of 106 pitchers to allow 40 plus fly balls, he had the 11th lowest rate of fly balls being pulled against him. Also, his overall average exit velocity against is 86.3 miles per hour. And out of 92 pitchers with 1,000 plus pitches thrown, Bubich's average exit velocity against was the third lowest. His average exit velocity against on fly balls particularly was third lowest against among those 92. So that's also an explainer for why he has the lowest home run rate in baseball. Along with that low home run rate and average exit velocity, he has a 27% strikeout rate and 19% strikeout minus walk rate. That strikeout rate ranked 15th out of 78 heading into Sunday, and strikeout minus walk rate ranked 17th. So him having the lowest home run rate in baseball and also one of the better strikeout minus walk rates, that is the recipe for having a top 5 FIP in baseball, which he has. And along with that, he has a 33% called strike and whiff rate, which ranks fifth among the 92 pitchers to throw 1,000 plus pitches this year heading into Sunday. So that's also a kind of an indicator that maybe a higher strikeout rate is coming, because top 5 in called strike and whiff rate is no joke. I mean, when you look at who he's ranked with, it's a lot of strikeout machines. I know Tarek Skubal is at the top of that list. But yeah, so that Chris Bubich from both of us in Foolish Bailey 2 years ago is getting a
How about that?
yeah.
Yes. Very cool.
Very cool, very cool, full circle. And yeah, Foolish Bailey was first.
He literally was first. He also had him as a pitcher that he liked this year.
Yeah, he was like, I wonder if we must have been the first platform he was publicly like pro Chris Bubich.
Yeah, because it was after like 2 good starts in 2023.
Yeah, it was because we had him on like early to mid-April in 2023. He was like, oh, this Chris Bubich guy is looking good.
Then he had Tommy John immediately after.
Yeah, it was tough, but like he was on it and he stayed on it. So shout out to him.
He deserves this.
Episode 235. If you want to
Like we're the ones hyping him up right now, but he's the real Chris Bubich truther.
Yeah. Pretty wild. So yeah, go check out episode 235 if you want to check out the full Foolish Bailey interview. But yeah, good stuff here. Any final words before we hop off this podcast?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I don't really have any either. Good luck to all the Central Virginia teams in their state tournaments this week is what I'll say. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed this one. If you were listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Got some cool stuff on the YouTube channel. We have guest playlists of which Foolish Bailey is on. We've also had Chris Rose on, Jeff Passan, Sarah Langs, Mike Petriello, Mark Simon ×4, Matt Brash, among others, in a lengthy lengthy list of guest interviews. Also check out the 2 video essays on the channel, the When Big First Base Contracts Vanished and the Slow Death of ERA. And those luckily it's gotten some traction. And then also go follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at @Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball. Once again, see you then. Where's my stop?
This conversation is over.